What does a super committee impasse mean for New Mexico?
Well, the first question, what does a super committee impasse mean for the United States? And obviously New Mexico has a greater piece of the pie when we talk about federal funding. But first and foremost, going back that I sort of look at the economy differently. And I was livid when we had both Republicans and Democrats vote against the raising the debt ceiling, because from a fiscal standpoint we had absolutely no choice. But it flagged the fact that politics was more important than what is best for this country. I think the super committee is probably the limited knowledge that I have, and I understand there's a lot of sincere people trying to work for a solution on that, but I think the super committee principally has more in mind what's best for their parties, both Republican and Democrats, rather than what's best for the country. I'm pretty disillusioned because there's very few politicians out there that are willing to cast a vote that may not poll well, but could be totally responsible. And I do believe the 12 should make a decision and should not be faced with defending their position at the election time, assuming they would be making a decision on what's best for the country. The first thing that has to happen before our economy turns around, we have companies with lots of liquidity, but they're not going to hire right now because there's too much uncertainty in the economy. And so you have the cash to do it. You may even have some additional demand that's creeping up, but they want to get that additional demand provided by existing workforce rather than go out and hire additional workforce. I think what this country is looking for is a stability in their economic outlook. They may not like it, but they want to know that's the way it's going to be. Right now, it's like a ping pong ball all over the court. And I think the quickest way to instill a positive attitude about our country is to set us on a course that reduces our debt and helps pay for that. And I think it's going to be a combination of both spending cuts and revenue enhancements.
What about the president getting involved in this thing and saying, okay, the Republicans say this or Democrats say this, let's split the difference, and I'll take the heat if I need to?
Well, I don't know if that's what he said or not.
No, he has not. I'm saying, what about him saying that?
He hasn't. He was encouraged from the reading that I had determined to stay out of this, and now he's getting blamed for having stayed out of it. You got to remember, he's part of the executive branch. They're part of the legislative branch, and they are the appropriating body, and it's their sole responsibility, the Congress of the United States, when it comes to money issues. So I guess somebody has to take leadership when Congress isn't willing to exhibit leadership.
So what does this mean for New Mexico? We've got a lot of military bases here. We got Los Alamos.
Well, first and foremost, I don't see any sudden change in spending. I see they're letting up off the accelerator on spending, but the long-term results, I think, are going to be quite damaging to the state of New Mexico because of the research labs, Los Alamos and Kirtland, White Sands, missile range, military bases. Those are all subject to reduced spending levels. And I think the responsible approach is to do that in a fold-out process rather than put us into convulsion overnight.
Well, I know that Leon Panetta is talking about these automatic defense cuts that go into effect, and he said that we'd be back down to 1940 type levels. Does that have immediate impact on New Mexico, or is it more down the road?
Well, I would hope from an economic standpoint for the country also and the defense contractors that it would be a 3 to 5 year deacceleration. But I guess Congress can do what they want, and if they put on the brakes and let out the chute to stop the slow down the speed, they can. I just don't think personally that would be responsible.
For a guy like you who spends a lot of his time poring over numbers and state budgetary figures, does that give you pause?
It gives me a ton of pause when I cannot quantify the exact amount that that are going into payroll taxes from related defense spending in the state of New Mexico, but obviously we're cooling off the economy even more when it shouldn't be cooled off, because you now have people saying the Committee of 12 did not step to the plate, and as a result we know something serious is coming down the pike, but it's unknown. And so we better make certain we reduce our spending, household spending I'm talking about right now. So as far as the immediate impact on the state of New Mexico, it could, the response could be more felt actually harder, and the brakes put on harder at the household immediately rather than long term, saying, well, it's going to be 2 years or 3 years. They could be putting on the brakes right now.
And so if the households are spending less money, and if there's an atmosphere of uncertainty there, that reflects on the gross receipts tax. It has a ripple effect all the way through the state economy.
It'll hit the gross receipts first on that. And then once it materializes, obviously it hits the gross receipts, and it's going to hit income tax.
So the news hasn't been really good for New Mexico in the last couple of years, and it might get worse.
Well, relative to most states, and it's out of step for me, we are in far better shape than most states. We started putting the brakes on 3 and 4 years ago. Now, the ones that have been impacted and paid the bill here in this state will disagree, but all they have to do is go to the surrounding states to find out what's happening there.
Yeah, you're right on that point. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I wonder if